Google released a paper recently where they're trialing large language models for text consultations between doctors and patients. What they found in the early research is patients rate the AI as more empathetic than a doctor. Now, the reason that is...
Interesting / scary. Arizona State University have done the first large university in the States partnership with OpenAI to get... That's a big move. That's ballsy. We won't be far away from the AI university that has majority of the staff are not human, they're AI.
Yeah. He went to a car company, chatted to a sales exec, had this really good interaction. Turned out the sales exec wasn't a sales exec, it was an AI. You spend billions of dollars to try to get in front of the right customer, and then you mess it up at that point rather than putting a person there. This is what we're building for clients, not just AI systems that sit on their own, that integrate with your internal systems, right?
Opportunities and challenges, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. That's the stuff we talk about at Generate.
Exactly.
Dealing with all sorts of interesting large clients across multiple sectors, helping them to understand what the hell is going on with generative, how to inform their strategy and the AI policies, and then to implement that with insight, right?
Definitely, definitely. Do you like my shirt, by the way?
No.
Don't tell me what you think. Obviously, don't hold back. I left. Go on. No.
I took a picture of you surreptitiously, not illegally, just friendly business wise. I put it into GPT, and it can basically tell you what anything is. It said it's a mixture of a zebra and a 1950s film star.
Do you know what? When I left the house this morning, I thought, you look like potentially a cross between a 1970s carpet and maybe an Italian gangster.
I was going to say porn.
Oh, right. But I didn't think that was a bad mix, actually. I was pretty pleased with that, but yeah, you're right.
Very good.
We'll do a vote, a bit like your hat. Would you wear this shirt?
We got loads of votes.
Yes or no?
That was our most popular question. That poll was brilliant. Let's do the poll for the shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm all over it, mate. My vote's in. It's very nice, mate. Suits you.
Good. Do you like my shirt? No. Okay.
It's like a child. No.
Yeah. Okay.
This is called the No Filter Generate podcast.
Exactly.
Roy says no. Makes no sense.
No. You're an idiot. Right then, what's been happening since the last pod, which was filmed last week?
Yeah, last week at some point. Well, it's been a great start to the year, as we said. Bunch of interesting clients coming in, lots of conversations. We're into the year of AI budget, and the first 6 months, I should say, of a business has gone really well, hasn't it? Been
good. Been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mainly downs with a few ups. Or is it the other way around?
Yeah. What do you mean a roller coaster? What type? One that scares the shit out of you every other minute, right? You're
stuck on the Smiler, like a loop on the Smiler constantly. Yeah. Although there is, we've got to go to Thorpe Park this year, actually, mention it. There's a brand new roller coaster coming to Thorpe Park. Hyperion it's called. The highest roller coaster in the UK. Me and my son were looking at it just the other day. It looks good.
Nice.
So we'll report back on that if we make it.
Exactly. I took my son to Disneyland Paris actually before Christmas.
Yeah.
He's 6.5. He loved the roller coasters. You wouldn't tell from the pictures. He looks terrified. He also doesn't look like he fits in the seat. I had my hand on his leg for the first ride, like just hoping that would hold him in the seat if he came out.
Not on a loop.
Yeah.
Whilst upside down.
But yeah, he loved them.
Brilliant.
We got in at 8 o'clock, did like the 5 biggest rides we could, and then I needed a break for about 2 hours to recover.
And then stayed there for another week.
I stayed there for 3 days, mate. That felt like 3 weeks.
Disney-fied is. I love Disney, but you can.
It's full of.
It's like too many marshmallows, isn't it?
Exactly.
And Skittles.
Yeah, exactly.
And After Eights, which are my favourite.
Exactly. Right. Building in public.
Yep.
Building in public. We've got a couple of things here. One of them, I think we've spoken about before, but I still love, which is really good, is Bardeen, which is this little plugin for Chrome that allows us to copy LinkedIn contacts into Notion.
Yeah, it's been good.
Notion, which is Notion, sort of, our document hub where we're documenting our processes and what's going on. We're also using it for sales. So we've got our opportunity pipeline in there. We're using it for all our contacts. We're using it quite extensively, actually. And it's been really, really good. But the integrations are great. And Bardeen, allows you to go onto LinkedIn at the click of a button and add somebody into your Notion database, which is really interesting because that whole adding of contacts to databases, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've worked in a load of different teams, a load of different people. I've never met anybody that likes doing that or does it well consistently. Like, it's just such a it's almost like timesheets, isn't it? It's such a draining task to do. And those little things that automate it are pretty good, especially because we're also building a bit of a sales automation tool for ourselves, which is going to make sure we don't miss out on any of our sort of nurture list contacts in terms of being in touch with them at the right time and sending them value, on regular occasions. And we're using it for that as well. So it funnels in and helps us get that core bit of data up to date and correct, which is sort of the building blocks of any good agency, consultancy, or company. Yeah,
and the great thing about starting a new consultancy from scratch is you've got no legacy in terms of we have to use X or Y, which is brilliant, right? And as you rightly say, doing that process is great, and something we do for our clients too. Using the tools in the right order and chaining that together in a workflow process is a lot where the magic is. Because there's lots of brilliant tools out there, and some we're building, some we're using, but it's the flow, isn't it? And like you say, we're using that process currently because there's lots of opportunity out there. I think it's fair to say, but making sure we don't miss any of those and we talk to the people at the right time as a consultancy, because as we knew, and we're kind of getting our name out there and our brand is really important. But yeah, it's going pretty well. We'll report back on it more. But again, it's all about the efficiency and time saving here. These little tools that we're building and the ones that we're using are really helping us to not just talk to more people, but talk to more people consistently and do it over time. And that's really important, right, for any business. And we're also having the similar conversations with some of our clients too around some of the sales functions, certainly within HR and workflow and operations and process. So yeah, there's lots of good stuff happening with some of those tools like Bardeen, I think, and the stuff we're building. Yeah, that's it. And that approach, I think, to building stuff ourselves as well as for clients, I think is something we set out to do anyway. Not as much as we have, actually. We didn't set out with the intention of building as much as we have today, but we've just built stuff as we've come across problems, or we found the right products to put together and thought about it and worked it out and not dived into stuff. But as we've hit problems, we've gone, can we solve this by either selecting the right tools and chaining them together, or by building something ourselves that will sit over the top of it and add value long term. And it's been great to do that, because I think that's what clients are paying us to do for them. And if you have that mindset and approach yourself, then you can see these things much, much clearer. And it's like it's the cobbler with good shoes is what it is. Yeah, the opposite of busman's holiday, isn't it? But again, doing it is nothing better than understanding it intrinsically because you're doing it yourself. Yeah. That we understand this problem, so we've got the same problem, so they can actually help you to solve yours. Exactly. And that's what, in my view, what a really powerful consultancy does, is understands the problem because they've either thought about it enough, tried out enough of the right tools and the right processes, can show you where the pitfalls or the challenges are and the best route forward, right? Yeah. From strategy and implementation. Yeah, exactly. Now, we've spoken about Fireflies before on the last pod. We bigged it up. We don't know how we lived before Fireflies. What was life like before Fireflies? Well, more forgetful. The Fireflies, if you didn't watch the last one, is the video call AI note taker tool. It's great because it can jump on any call you're on, whether you're on Teams, Zoom, Google, whatever. And obviously it helps us make sure we keep on top of conversations, what was had, you can go back to it. We looked at something really interesting actually for a client, which was for a much, much bigger project. And we were looking at operational efficiency within that project. And the note taking is great, saves you a load of time. You can do a whole load of stuff with it as well, send out meeting notes, write-ups, whatever you want. But we found a really interesting use case for it, which was you can integrate it with your CRM. So let's say you're using Monday.com, or you're using another one of the CRMs to manage your projects.
you can integrate Fireflies using Zapier with your CRM so that when you're on a call, you can say, add that to our project tasks for this project, and it will take that and automatically add it into your CRM. Now, that's another level of operational efficiency, right? When we're talking about how do you streamline stuff. Not only can you get meeting notes out, we can get tasks into a CRM just from a conversation. I mean, that really is helpful when you're running projects. If you think you're a project manager or you're in charge of a project, and again, you've got to get stuff in to a CRM, which has then got to produce a project plan, you can now do that off the back of a call. I mean, that's really, really game-changing stuff. You know, if you save half an hour every project call you do because of that, that adds up pretty quickly on a 6-month project, right?
Massive. Exactly right. That's what we're advising, though, isn't it? And again, the revolution happens incrementally, doesn't it? Like, you know, we talk about generative AI a lot, and sometimes, you know, people get a bit scared. Oh my God, you don't have to do all of it. Just understand what the challenges, the insights, and the pitfalls are, where your best use cases are, and do the small bits. Because this is where it starts. You know, things like Copilot and Microsoft being integrated in across teams and Teams itself and so on. Brilliant. You know, the Google things as well. So I think this is kind of where it starts. Is people were experimenting last year. Obviously, they're looking at bigger picture stuff, but we're also advising people to use some of these tools in certain cases because they're really powerful, right? Yeah. And I think, as well as that, if you prove that the use case and the ROI quickly, gives everyone more confidence as to, okay, well, this really works pretty well. And it doesn't have to be, you have to go wild and go into image and video and text and all this kind of new stuff. Some of it is in productivity, and there's big gains in there. Yeah,
big gains. Big gains. I think that operational efficiency, there's huge opportunities in there. And for some of this, you don't need machine learning engineers. Do you know what I mean? You just need to have a look at what your processes are and what's going on, and you can put some of this stuff together. So this isn't out of the reach of, you know, teams themselves to set this up. This is there for you if you want to set it up. You know, with no code, you can set up that example we've just said. Fireflies with Zapier into Monday.com. You can set that up.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, in some of the training we've been doing for those large brands around the internal comms piece, seeing the light go off, you know, and people going, oh, is kind of worth the admission price, isn't it? Where they go, oh, I could do that. And some of it's quite simple. Some of it is, you know, in internal comms, it's around content and production and around workflow and process. But when they go, oh, I could use the existing piece of content I've got, and it wouldn't hallucinate if I did it this way in private GPT, and I could do that, and I could extend it out and that would save me how many hours? People just get it and they go wild, right? That's just absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
So the upside is big, right?
The upside's massive. And if you're running a project and you can get out of the you know, the sort of the weight that pulls you under of admin a little bit,
that's it.
All of a sudden you can see further ahead, and you can see those obstacles and those risks coming at you, and you're not just getting time back. You're ultimately going to be able to run more, you know, like with more thought, more efficiently, better projects, better teams. So I think there's the immediate sort of ROI gain you get back from the time, but it's more than that, isn't it? Yeah. It's way more. Given that if you ask anybody out there, you know, in any sort of job where there's a load of requirements, how they're doing, most people will go, I'm busy. That's the response. That's the go-to response. How are you? Busy. Yeah. Okay, great.
Oh, good thing.
You know, so, you know, these things that help us get out, I think it's going to be really interesting to see the teams that do get some headspace. You know, if they do the right things with it, it's gonna move them even further forward. Yeah, definitely. What do we say? You know, the stereotypical conversation last year, AI won't take your job, someone who knows it will. If you flip that around, be interested, do the right training, do the right courses, look at the right blogs and so on, do small tests, turn it into this year where that's now becoming bigger and kind of more prevalent. I think there's huge opportunities there, and that's certainly been proven with the conversations we're having with our clients, right? Yeah, exactly. Just as an aside, I was watching some really interesting stuff recently. It was the World Microsoft Excel Championships. Exciting. Yeah, really. I mean, these guys on an Excel spreadsheet are... You sent me that link and I avoided it. Unbelievable. I didn't even know it existed. It's a thing, right? It's like a cross between your project manager updating the project plan and esports. It's a crazy mix, right? It's sort of... unbelievable what you're watching. Anyway, the guy who won it, the World Excel champion, there is a thing.
Yep.
He's got a belt as well, right? He's got a belt.
Nothing else. Just like.
Well, no, I mean he's
wearing other
yeah.
things,
I mean,
okay.
yeah, you could wear anyway. I think he won $3,000. So not, it's still
It's
not
the kudos, isn't it?
It's not mainstream yet, but it's getting there. The reason I'm talking about him, by the way, is because he
Is it you?
I'm pretty good on Excel. I don't think I'd stand a chance with these guys.
You mean Rose, not Excel? Who's Excel?
He doesn't think AI will take over
Right.
people's jobs. And I was like, you're using
Correct.
Excel. It's definitely taking your job,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you're not going to be Excel champion for long.
you're on the front line, mate.
No, you're
I mean,
first
AI
in
is going to
queue.
win the Excel World Championships if you let it
Next
in.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know about that, but
True.
but yeah, if you don't believe me, we'll share a link and you can go and have a look.
I'm deleting it already.
If I can imagine a lot of people want to jump on and have a look.
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
It's coming.
It's a thing. So bad AI. Bad AI. There's a couple of things here. I'm just scrolling here. So there was a really bad AI example recently, which was there was a tech conference that I believe used AI to create images of female speakers that weren't female speakers, and weren't going to turn up to make it look like they had more gender equality at their conference, and they got found out.
Yes.
That's pretty bad, right? I mean, in terms of bad AI, that's bad
Poor.
AI.
That's pretty poor for lots of reasons, right? Obviously.
That is
Number
terrible.
one, have more women at your conference. I mean, what, and then try and cover it up. It's kind of wow.
Yeah, and we know people who would help there. We know great people. There's Lauren Ingram who runs the
Web3.
Women of Web3.
Yep, great.
Massive network, brilliant speaker. There's Tiffany St James, again, brilliant speaker, knowledgeable. There's a whole host of women out there who will attend these conferences and speak if you put the tiniest bit of effort in to get in front of them. So pretty poor, I think, in terms of decision making, and it links to, in general, AI and the misuse of it. And we've advised clients on image stuff, haven't we, before, and said, don't use it in this area. This is not the right area to use it. This is where you need to be transparent.
Absolutely.
It's not. In other areas, it's been fantastic, right? We've saved clients huge amounts of money using generative AI in the right areas, where people weren't the thing that was being sold or communicated. They were just part of the image, as it were. So being thoughtful about this stuff is so important. You're going to get burned if you're not thinking this stuff
through. Just the wrong thing to do. Massive slap on the wrist for them and more. I've got another one. So I got recently. It just people misstepping constantly. It's just beyond me. So Humane, the Humane pin, quite an interesting business, invisible interfaces. We chatted on a previous pod. A couple of weeks ago, their CEO did a LinkedIn post. The first half of the LinkedIn post, it's almost like a comedy sketch. The first half was, we're launching in March. We're so excited to invite 5 or 6 really interesting looking people, machine learning engineers and PhDs and great stuff. Brilliant, sounds great. The second half of the LinkedIn post was, and this is almost ad verbatim, we're also sorry to be losing 10 of our amazing staff. Good luck for the future. No names. I mean, if you're old enough to remember The Office, David Brent, people are being made redundant from Wernham Hogg or whatever. He says, we've got good news and bad news. The good news is I've been promoted. The bad news is you're all made redundant. And they go, there is no good news. You're still thinking about the bad news. They're like, so clothy. And I can't understand why you would do that. Huge amounts of comments going, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
If you're going to say, don't do it in the same LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
And certainly not as a footnote. Like 2/3, these amazing people are joining. Footnote, sorry about you 10 who've lost your jobs. I mean, that's
strange.
It's just bonkers. Why would you do that? So the other one I saw just yesterday, again, it's the year, it's not all jokes aside, big elections come up this year in the US and the UK, of course. I think just this week, Joe Biden's voice was cloned and sent out to numerous people saying, don't vote in the primaries, it's not worth it. So there's going to be a lot of that this year. Now, it's not bad AI particularly, although there was a few jokes made about well, is he still alive and was he asleep and stuff? And his voice is so boring. However, there's lots of that happening this year, so something to watch out for. It's going to be big this year with those elections, and some of the bad actor type AI stuff is going to unfortunately be front and center. So
yeah,
we'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Definitely. And linked to that, the sort of copyright issues around AI. This is another thing that we advise clients on in terms of if you use generative, where the lines of ownership, copyright, and IP are. Like we take clients through that so they fully understand. Where they are in that sort of legal area. But there's grey lines with this, out now. I saw a Michael Jackson video, a new Michael Jackson video for a new song that had been created with generative AI, both the song and the video. So you can go to YouTube and see it. We'll stick it up here and put a link. It sounds like Michael Jackson. The song sounds like Michael Jackson. The video, from a generative perspective, is quite impressive, right? From what they've put together, but it is a real likeness of Michael Jackson, both visually and from a sound perspective. And it's like, okay, they said they weren't making any commercial money from it, but it's on YouTube and they're going to get ad revenue from it, so it is commercial. Yeah. So that line of like copyright is, we're going to see some interesting cases coming out, I think, through this year, where people get it right and they get it wrong, and we're going to have some landmark cases around that. But with stuff like this video, to me, that's clearly copyright infringement, right, in terms of building and replicating something. And so, I don't know where we end up at the end of the year, but I guess, like you said, given the security aspect and given the copyright aspect and given the pace of change in this area, new legislation is going to have to come in pretty quickly. And we're going to see some court cases, I would imagine, this year. We've
got some big ones. Absolutely right. So last year we saw, certainly in the US, a lot of case law, a couple of the more high-profile ones being thrown out. The Sarah Silverman one, for instance, a good example. Judge said, this is ridiculous. You can't say that it's been trained on that because how can even blah, blah. But again, not forgetting the big kahuna, the big one in the room is New York Times versus OpenAI. So that's the big copyright case currently happening. We may be in an Napster moment where it all stops and it all changes and says, no, you have to license everything. So there's lots of conversations going on about that. Lots of conversations on about removing copyrighted data from the data sets. Sam Altman, all the big ones looked at and said, generative doesn't work with Creative Commons or public available data. It's not enough data. So it doesn't work, right? So we are coming to an inflection point pretty quickly. With things like the EU draft law coming into play in 2025, UK regulatory also doing similar stuff likely this year, although we are still in the UK quite AI positive in that sense and open market. So it'd be really interesting to see. My view, copyright in itself is not fit for purpose in the world we're in. Because you're going back centuries of stuff and all the public domain stuff that keeps on coming out. I think the whole thing is going to break at some point. But I think the short term will be interesting to see what happens, because that is the NYT particularly and OpenAI case I think will be a landmark case this year. We'll keep an eye on it. But again, like we say, we're on top of these things. We're advising our clients almost down to the granular level of particular tools that we're using, what we're advising to use and not use, right?
Yeah, so exactly.
Watch this space.
And it links back into the big advantage in this world today is your own data, or your own combination of data that you are then using alongside some of these models. And this architecture that we're helping build for clients is, one of the setups is called a RAG architecture, which is retrieval augmented generation, I think, which is basically means that as a company, you can have a ChatGPT-like experience, but it searches on your own data first and then uses a large language model to wrap it up and make it, much more conversational. And so where it's searching your own data, only you get to do that. Nobody else does. And, if you've got really good data, whether that's in HR, whether that's in an area customer service, whether that's in research, whether that's, wherever it is, and you can train your own model, or you can use it alongside one of these models and build your own products, in effect, or your own front ends that add value to consumers, you've got an advantage, because Other people can't replicate that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing and doing a lot of work in for clients is how do you configure that and how do you set that up and how do you get that working effectively with your own data?
Yeah, it's a gold mine of data, isn't it? And that proprietary data is where the gold is, in essence. Also reduces inaccuracies and hallucinations, which we talk about a lot. Although I did see something interesting this week about the corpus of data on the internet, as in the new fresh data, is going to run out in 2025-26 timeframe.
Okay.
So they'll have scraped everything that's possible to scrape before 2026. Great, okay. And then there'll be, but again, going back to Transformers and the whole transformative attention is all you need back in 2017, the original kind of Transformers paper. And then AI using certain areas to look at to make it better, and the neural networks and so on. But moving into the next piece, synthetic data is going to be massive. I know we talked about it a few times. But again, that is going to be huge this year. It's just that those data sets, that there won't be new data sets coming in. So that proprietary data and synthetic data is going to be massive. Sam Altman talks about a lot about synthetic data. So I would definitely keep an eye on that. And we will, of course, because it's going to be absolutely massive. Which also means, just very quickly on the M&A and acquisition front will be interesting, because then businesses with proprietary data sets are going to be acquisition targets and licensing targets, which plays nicely back into the NYT and OpenAI court case, because licensing means possibly acquisitions and possibly new kind of movements and forms of media companies who've got great data, and it might be customer review companies, or it could be all sorts of different data pieces. But that's going to be really interesting to follow, I think, as well.
Yeah, definitely is. Now, this straddles sort of both good and bad AI. This is an example from the interesting and always opinionated Tom Goodwin, very popular on LinkedIn. So he posted recently about the fact that he was looking to buy a new car, and he went to a car company, chatted to a sales exec, sent them an email, I think 7 a.m, got an instant response, had this really good interaction back and forth with this sales rep, and turned up at the local dealership later that day or the next day, whenever, looking to try one of the cars out. Turned out the sales exec wasn't a sales exec. It was an AI chatbot, or it was a large language model. And they didn't have the car that he wanted in the showroom. And his point was, which I thought was a good one, was, you spend billions of dollars to try to get in front of the right customer who's going to spend money to buy a car, and then you mess it up at that point rather than putting a person there, which was a good point. But also, if you look at it, all they needed to do in that scenario, right, was exactly what we've just been talking about, was integrate that AI model that they did, which was really good, by the way, because he thought it was a person responding to him really well. So up until the point that he got there, brilliant. All they needed to do was integrate that with their internal systems in terms of inventory, what was accessible, what was there, allow you to book a drive or deliver a car to you for a test drive. We're not in a world anyway we could do that. We'll come round and drop a car off and you can drive it. So, bad AI in the sense that they done quite a lot of the hard work and then they messed it up at the last bit. Yeah. But good AI in the sense that actually this is what we're building for clients, is not just AI systems that sit on their own, that integrate with your internal systems, that look up, your core data and your core inventory. And so they were very nearly there. Clearly, I agree, actually, in a lot of areas, you want people in those areas. And if you free up time by speeding stuff up and you can put people more in those service areas to engage with people, that's a good thing. But you can also, if you can converse with somebody and you can get the right model in the stock and ask all the right questions in a really well-mannered, thought-out way, and then hand it over to somebody, why wouldn't you do that? Yeah,
that's the right way to look at it is AI is 90% of the way there. You're always going to want human interaction. That's something we talk about a lot, isn't it? The human oversight or augmentation. But I'd call that good AI, massive learning, And then what will the next iteration be like? Because that customer feedback, whether it be unstructured data, which we can now start to, understand better and classify, goes back into that kind of into that user experience.
Yeah.
To improve it, which might mean we don't automate everything, but we keep 5 to 10%, which is where the world's going.
Yeah. All they had to do was hook it up to their internal systems, print a sheet out for whoever the sales rep was just before he turned up with a summary of the conversation today and what he's interested in. So They've got that there, and you welcome him in. Yeah. Bang, straight away, you've got
amazing customer service.
Amazing customer service.
That was frictionless, as they call it.
Yeah.
Right?
So, they missed the trick there, but as always, this is our whole point. It is a balance of technology and people, and you need to get that balance right. It's not one or the other, and what you tend to find out in the world is people are either all in on AI and trying to get rid of everybody, or they're extremely derogatory about AI, and it's all about the people. The goal is somewhere in the middle, depending on where you are and what department and what business. The mix of those two things is going to change. There's not a fixed 50-50, 70-30, whatever. It's going to change. And another interesting area linked to this was Google released a paper recently where they're trialing large language models for text consultations between doctors and patients, and I think text and email, written consultations basically between doctors and patients. And what they found in the early research is that patients rate the AI as more empathetic than a doctor. Now, the reason that is probably because if you think you're a doctor in a surgery and you're having to respond in between appointments to somebody, you're quite short on time, right? And you've got to type, and probably not a typist, as it were. So the niceties maybe go out of that, whereas a large language model, just naturally, you can configure the tone of voice and it adds all of the niceties in. So it feels much more like a conversation. So really interesting in those areas. Yeah, it is. Of course, very little room for error in medicine. Yeah, but
it's a tight use case.
Very, very interesting. Yeah,
but the healthcare is a fascinating thing. That reminds me of something else I thought was interesting, adjacent to that in education, which is Arizona State University have done the first large university in the States partnership with OpenAI to get all of their faculty and all of their students on OpenAI Enterprise.
Wow.
That's a big move. That's ballsy, right? Obviously for OpenAI, brilliant. Imagine the training data out of that proprietary data set with a massive discount on, I think it was calculated out to 147,000 people, $50 a pop for enterprise, about $100 million a year. So big money. And you can imagine where OpenAI plus, if it works with Arizona State, I call them named university, very good university in America. That's brilliant. Personalized tutoring, communications, all of the research data that can be pulled back in because it's being asked questions and so on, using some of the Scholar and archive and research papers we mentioned before. That's a big, it's gone under the radar, actually. That's a massive move.
Yeah. So do you think that's the start of education changing? Because I guess I do. They're going to have to rethink the whole way they deliver education if they're doing that. It's not just an add-on, is it? No. To what's happening there.
It's the first part. I mean, we won't be far away from the AI university. I don't mean Udemy and course. I mean actually a campus set up with legacy and so on that has adjunct to whatever professors, but the majority of the kind of staff are not human. They're AI. Yeah. I think it could be well going that way. It'd be very interesting to see, but it's a big move. Yeah. Now, it may be heavily discounted, but I think that's direction of travel, whatever happens. Yeah. I think that's a fascinating
there's lots of online courses now, right, where you're in effect virtually there. You can learn anything you want. I mean, I do think
a Stanford one a few months ago was the beginning, but this is a big one for me because it's everyone. Yeah, 144,000 people in total. Yeah, that's big news.
Well, I think the first step on the road here, which there was a lady I saw on the BBC News who was very eloquent in articulating this, which was, the education system with tools like AI really needs to change its thinking in terms of how it approaches this stuff. And we've seen this before, we've spoken about this before, but, there are examples whereby instead of trying to block it in a class and not have people write their essays using, ChatGPT, some forward-thinking departments and teachers have said, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to use GPT or another AI model to write the essay, and you're all going to get the same essay, and you need to take that home and find out where it hasn't got it right, or find out where you'd improve it, or look up the sources of where it's got this stuff from.
Lean into it.
Or lean, and so, really interesting thinking in terms of turning that on its head, a little bit like the pocket calculator was to maths. A lot of chat back in the day that was going to destroy maths and thinking and education and everything else, and it didn't. It took us further down the road, right? But we changed the way we learn in terms of the tools we had. So really interesting, but big move for Arizona.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Be interesting to watch.
Well, I've got something good, by the way. I've got something good. I found, you may know this guy already. This guy seems like an absolute legend.
Is it me?
It's not you, no.
Okay.
No, unfortunately. You're just down from this, actually. This is one of the Imagineers at Disney, right? And his name is Lanny Smoot, I think. I think I've said that right.
That's not real.
Lanny Smoot. He's an Imagineer. That's his role. He's basically, right? Imagine, Lucius Fox in Batman, like the inventor dude who just comes up with stuff and shows Batman in the Batcave all the new tech. He's basically that for Disney, right?
Good job.
Some sort of legend. Anyway, what a cool job as well. He's just an Imagineer. Somebody told me there's a good series on Disney actually about the Imagineers if you want to watch it. Anyway, there was a recent video where he has overseen a project where they've created this floor tile that you can walk on in any direction and you just stay in the same place. And it's these tiny tiles, right? Tiny tiles. He sits on a chair and the chair's just moving around the floor. It's mad. It's absolutely mad. So you think of like where we're going from an immersive technology perspective, virtual reality, of course, we've maybe hit a few bumps in the road with virtual reality, but we're heading in a direction of immersive digital virtual experiences. And a floor that you could just walk on normally. I mean, Lanny's kind of shuffling around it at the moment. They're like, you get two people on this floor. You can't get two people on the floor though. They're walking like they're not really walking. They're just sort of just about staying on it. But imagine a room with it. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like something out of the future. Anyway,
it sounds like a Jamiroquai video.
Oh, love Jamiroquai. Yeah.
Sounds good. Imagineer. Like I say, I think Imagineer on your passport's pretty good, isn't it? It's quite a cool name.
Not bad, is it?
Gutted, I didn't think of that one. Actually, Imagineer is a brilliant name.
So,
okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
What else we've got? Okay, briefly, we're at the beginning of 2024. We haven't talked about video, text to video. I think another huge thing coming this year. Couple of things to note on that one. It's getting way better, right? If last year was all about text to image and text to text and so on. The Oscars were last night. No AIs in it this year. My confident prediction for next year is that one of the major Academy Awards will go to significant amount of AI next year. That's my creative prediction for this year. I think so. Yeah. Interesting, but two things to keep in mind: they're getting way better. Things like Pika Labs, Google are doing a lot in it as well. Meta are starting to play with it. And Runway's getting much better as well. We've kind of seen that as we go through some of our projects. TikTok are getting involved. That's going to be really interesting, right? They've got the audience. ByteDance themselves, who are the parent company of TikTok, are creating their own LLM. So if you think about what they've got in distribution, we talk about distribution and content a lot with some of our work, and that's going to be really big. So that is a play to keep an eye on this year.
Yeah,
it's going to go really big.
Might have to get on TikTok again then, mightn't we? Are we allowed on? We're too old, aren't we? I think. Did they kick you off for being too old? I remember you got...
Well, you're 10 years, so I'm 12 at least, give or take.
The thing I laughed at the other day was remembering the fact that you were telling me you got caught by your wife on TikTok.
Stop there. That story's not going to get any better.
No, it does. Oh. You got caught by your wife... Looking at TikTok, but not like... God knows what's on TikTok, but I don't even pretend to know. I guess young kids dancing or something, right? Yeah. Not that. You got caught looking at our videos of yourself on TikTok.
That's true.
That's
a true story.
I think that's worse, actually.
That's the TikTok shaming me.
Yeah.
That's not good. I show the kids and they go, no.
We need a youngster who understands social, TikTok, and AI to come and help us run our TikTok channel because we're too fucking old to run it.
HMU, that's what the kids say.
I do not want to fall into the TikTok vortex and never come out again.
Is that an unofficial request for a hire? I think it might be, no?
That is, yeah. Okay, and let's be honest, you're never going to learn to dance, so it's too late for you. So, it's,
Well, you've got Lanny Smoot. We're teaching you how to do.
Lanny Smoot.
Teaching you TikTok dances. That's next. That's coming in March.
That's coming in March. Okay. I've got one other cool thing.
Yep.
It's kind of creepy, but cool. Kind of MI5-ish. Not sure. But this was some team somewhere. That's good information, isn't it, Tom?
Good start.
We'll again put a link up in a video. They trained with AI a Wi-Fi router, right, in a room, and they had cameras in the room, and the Wi-Fi router obviously is sending signals out, and they had the cameras in the room. So people walked in the room. They trained a little model to look at the differences in signal that the Wi-Fi router got out and got back with the people in the room, right? With the actual people walking in the room through the cameras. They took the cameras away, and the Wi-Fi router could detect people when they walked in the room.
Really?
What the fuck? How mad is that?
Interesting / scary.
Oh my God, that's like something out of a movie, isn't it? I mean, that's insane. So there's some footage of it that we'll put up, and we'll put a link up. But I was just like, I mean, that to me was a little sort of example of how these sort of little reinforcement learning areas and programs are going to excel, right? In areas we don't even know yet. Remember when the internet started? You didn't know what fucking job was going to be created in 20 years, what people were going to be doing, right? We're in the same place now.
Quite.
We don't know where this is going to go. We just know that the combinations of technology and data and learning and reinforcement learning are going to produce some interesting, scary, strange, crazy outcomes, right?
Opportunities and challenges, right?
Yeah.
Which is what we talk about. Which I think is not a nice segue into, so that's what we're doing. That's the stuff we talk about at Generate, right?
Exactly.
Dealing with all sorts of interesting large clients across multiple sectors, helping them to understand what the hell is going on with generative, how to inform their strategy and the AI policies, and then to implement that with insight, right? That's what we're doing. And if anyone's interested in talking to us about it, hit us up on generate.com or info@generate.com.
Definitely. And just to finish, then we've got a couple of interesting things coming up. We mentioned last time we have an internal communication team AI training course. That's open to IoIC members for a discount and anybody else at a good price. Price.
Taking your internal comms teams from 0 to 100 in generative in 6 weeks, 3 webinars, 3 AMAs with officially the dream team.
The dream team.
As we've been called by one of the previous cohorts very nicely.
That's it.
Well, they said it was about one of us, but I put you in anyway, so that's fine. But if
we'll
you want the dream team to support you with getting your internal teams up to speed so you can make huge productivity and efficiency gains, come on to that. 22nd of February it starts.
22nd of Feb. Yeah, and the other things we've got an updated AI policy framework. So clients have been using the one that we have put together. We have updated it with some of the latest thinking from ISO. So ISO released their own policy framework. It's quite heavy, as you would expect from ISO. So we've taken the best bits and put it into ours. That's available on our site if you want to download it. That will get you going, and it asks the right questions and has the right topics in there to help you think about in your business how you need to implement and create guidelines around AI usage. And we have a healthcare AI webinar coming up. We've got a big healthcare client. We've done some really interesting work going from data to insight to action incredibly quickly. There's some great examples in that of how AI has uncovered really interesting insights at scale, and how we've allowed brand managers to take that into action very, very fast and not get stuck in the traditional research so what chasm that happens after it's been done, right? Here's your research. Here's 100 pages of it. Great.
What?
Now what do we do? Well, you go and take it into action. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you don't. It gathers dust, right? So we cross that. We cross that chasm and put it into action straight away. So if you're interested in that, there'll be links on our site to be able to sign up.
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to that one.
Good. That's it. That's a wrap.
That's the pod.
See you next time, people.
See you next time.